This is a historic day. This is the day that we say reparations now, and we say it by way of introducing legislation into the congressional record. I'm here with none other than Congresswoman Barbara Lee and all the advocates, the coalition of folks that have been doing this reparations work. Say hey, everybody! Reparations now. We're about to go out and introduce this bill, but who got something they want to say?
Run us our money now.
Now.
Free in the making now.
Now. Reparations.
Our ancestors are dancing all over heaven today.
That's right. That's right.
Reparations now.
Reparations now.
Our ancestors wild. Yes. Whose time has come.
Time has come. All right.
Keep hope alive.
Keep hope alive. There goes Rainbow Push. All right. Here we go. This is the day.
All right, guys. So we got to talk about money today. Okay. This is a very serious topic because Democrats are putting their hands out asking for more taxpayer dollars in more ways than one. Okay. Because Democrats, progressive Democrats more specifically, introduced a bill, or they are introducing a bill, demanding $14 trillion in federal reparations for the descendants of slaves. Now, a number of House Democrats led by Cori Bush introduced this resolution, and once again, we have the old okie doke being played here by the Democrats, in which they're trying to make ignorant people believe that they're actually going to get money, okay, from the federal government for something that they never went through. And guys, could you imagine the inflation that will result from spending $14 trillion? I mean, we see the inflation that is happening now, or that has happened because of all the trillions we spent during the pandemic. Again, imagine adding $14 trillion more to that. Okay, I mean, the US dollar would essentially become worthless. I mean, you're giving $14 trillion to people who are very, very, very likely to almost immediately spend it, right? Again, this is one of the main reasons I'm against the whole reparations thing, is because I don't want the value of the dollar, right, to tank even more than it has, okay? I mean, again, our money's going to be worthless if this type of proposal actually passed Congress and became law. But hey, they say cut the check, right? Cut the check, though. That's what they want. And the worst part about this is that this is all happening while this country is on the verge of default. And I want to talk about that. But before I get into it, we have to have a word from the sponsor of this video, Noble Gold. Guys, we just experienced another major banking collapse despite assurances from the Biden administration and the federal government that, hey, everything is under control. But you know, we do have a major bank that hopefully won't collapse. Bank of America, that is predicting that gold will go to $2,200 this year, an all-time high. Invest in a gold IRA today with Noble Gold Investments and take advantage of this rare opportunity to secure your retirement savings. With the experts at Noble Gold Investments, you can ride the wave of gold's historic rise to financial security. And this month, they're offering a solid silver 5-ounce America the Beautiful coin with every qualifying precious metals IRA or 401k rollover. You can't go wrong with Noble Gold Investments. Hurry and go to noblegoldinvestments.com to secure your wealth today and bag a free 5-ounce America the Beautiful coin if you qualify. Again, that is noblegoldinvestments.com. That is noblegoldinvestments.com. And just remember, there's always a risk with investments. Yeah, so politicians on Capitol Hill were asked about this new $14 trillion reparations proposal. And let's just say there was a mix of opinions that unsurprisingly was divided among party lines. Take a look.
You support a federal reparations bill? Why not?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think that is just the woke ideology peeking and rearing its ugly head. And in this country, you can do anything, be anything. And this culture of victimhood, it has absolutely gotten out of control.
Well, the federal government backed slavery, right? The federal government was the facilitator and nurturer of the transatlantic slave trade. So the federal government needs to hold itself accountable for that. And then policies that have continued throughout American history have continued to inflict harm on Black Americans.
Reparations need to happen on the federal level because it was the federal government who caused the harm. And so the federal government also should be a model for state and for local levels to also push to repair that harm, because the issue is we're talking about a history. So it goes back, it's a history of slavery, it's the history of Jim Crow, it's the history of post-Jim Crow discrimination.
Well, it doesn't make any sense. We're at a situation right now where the country is dealing with a serious debt issue, and to add to that would be problematic for the whole country, for economy, and it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so you've seen that, you heard that. Again, this is clearly divided among party lines. GOP is against it. Progressive Democrats are for it. It's something that's never going to happen, and this is basically a redo of what happened in California because people haven't learned their lesson yet, okay? Democrats come out here, they talk about reparations. They know damn well it's not passing. You're not going to get it. It's unrealistic. And most of all, we can't afford it. We're going to talk about it here in a little bit. But what they do is that they talk about it. They might set up some commission to talk about it and to make recommendations, and then once it comes time to execute, they're going to turn around and say, nah, we can't do it, right? Which is exactly what Gavin Newsom did out in California, okay? It was honestly a thing of beauty, okay? Because anybody with any common sense knew that this was not going to happen, right? But again, they're demanding $14 trillion in reparations as our country is about to default, okay? We're about to default on our debt obligations. If you guys didn't know, the U.S. government is about to run out of money in June, okay? At the beginning of June, we're going to run out of money, okay? We're already $31.4 trillion in debt. We hit that debt limit back in January. The U.S. government allegedly has some money left over to get us to June 1st. We just don't necessarily know how much longer. However, it's a big deal because if the U.S. government does not reauthorize spending to meet our debt obligation, aka raising the debt limit ceiling, then our country is going to default, right? And if we default on our debt, that's going to be very bad for the U.S. economy and the world economy as a whole, okay? We're not going to be able to pay back people who bought bonds, okay, debt securities from the U.S. government, okay? And we can't pay them back, and then, again, that's going to be a big deal. That's going to be very bad, okay? So there's currently negotiations going on in Congress between Democrats and Republicans. They do this every single year at the last minute about the debt ceiling. Now, here's the issue, okay? Because, one, our debt is more than our GDP. So $25 trillion was our GDP in 2022. We have more debt than the money that we take in. And at some point, we actually have to have a serious conversation about how are we going to rein in this debt. However, Democrats don't want to have a serious conversation because Republicans put forth a proposal to cap spending, to put work requirements for certain federal benefits, like, for example, SNAP. They want to stop the funding of the IRS. They want to repeal some of the tax credits from the Inflation Reduction Act, aka the Standard of Living Reduction Act. They also want to stop Biden's unconstitutional student loan debt forgiveness plan. They also propose spending cuts. Okay, they want to rein back in some of that unused COVID money. Republicans actually propose what I believe is a responsible spending proposal that would go along with the debt limit increase. Okay, so they're actually being reasonable here. They're giving the Democrats what they want, which is an increase to the debt limit. Okay, but they're also saying, look, we have to rein in spending. However, the Biden administration is basically saying that it's the GOP's fault that nothing has been done in regards to the debt limit. Okay, and they're blaming it on the GOP for why there's no progress being made. They're basically pretending like the GOP hasn't proposed anything, despite the fact that the GOP has passed a bill in the House to increase the debt ceiling and to cut spending. It's truly something to behold. Take a look.
We've been very clear. This is, when it comes to the debt limit, that's something that should have been done a while ago. We've been very clear about that. the fact that Republicans in Congress, MAGA Republicans, are threatening default, holding our economy hostage, that shouldn't be. That is not regular order. That is not what is supposed to be happening. We've done it 78 times since 1960. And so this should have been done some time ago. And so if they are so concerned about the timeline, then they should get to work and do their constitutional duty.
Yeah. Corinne's Jean-Pierre never ceases to amaze me on a daily basis with the mental gymnastics and the outright lies that she just spews at the podium. I mean, she's not even doing mental gymnastics anymore. She's just lying. Okay? Again, the GOP passed the bill in the House. The bill is not moving forward in the Senate because Chuck Schumer, the leader of the Democrats in the Senate, says we're not going to put it up for a vote, right? We're not even going to vote on it. So the reason why there's nothing that has been done is not because the GOP hasn't proposed anything. It's because Democrats quite literally have not even voted on the bill that the GOP proposed. It's just hilarious how this works. So with that being said, Biden is actually headed to Japan, right? Because again, listening to Corinne Jean-Pierre, okay, you would think that, oh yeah, this should have been done before. It's Republicans' fault why it's not being done. But Joe Biden, quite literally, is going to Japan while the country is on the verge of default. And I want you guys to take a listen at Kevin McCarthy talk about Biden going to Japan and where the current talks are with the Democrats in regards to the debt ceiling and cutting spending. Take a look.
Welcome back. President Biden announcing plans to cut his G7 trip short as debt ceiling negotiations are showing movement following another meeting with House Speaker Kevin McCarthy yesterday. Here's what Joe Biden had to say about those talks. Watch.
There was an overwhelming consensus, I think, in today's meeting, the congressional leaders, that defaulting on the debt is simply not an option. Our economy would fall into recession. It would devastate retirement accounts, increase borrowing costs, and according to Moody's, nearly 8 million Americans would lose their jobs and our international reputation would be damaged in the extreme if we were to let that happen. The country we've never defaulted on our debt, and we never will.
Joining me right now with more on these talks is the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. Speaker McCarthy, great to see you. Thanks so much for being here this morning.
Thank you, Maria. Thanks for having me back on your show.
Can you give us an update on where these talks stand? I know that you have said that the scope has changed and perhaps the staffs are coming up with some common ground. Is that common ground more than just rescinding the COVID-19 unspent money?
Well, Maria, we have to go back to how did we finally get to this place? 104 days ago, I sat with the president and said, let's sit down and let's negotiate. Let's be reasonable, let's be sensible, and let's be responsible about the future, because if our debt gets too large, which it is today, it's 120% of our GDP. It is larger than our economy. In the next 10 years, we'll pay more in interest than we paid in the last 83 years. So this is a serious time, and I want to negotiate. But for 104 days, he would not negotiate. So you just have to raise the debt ceiling, and it was going to put our economy in jeopardy by doing that. Then Republicans passed a bill, a limit, save, grow. Unfortunately, the Senate has taken no action, so we couldn't go to conference. But finally, yesterday, the president finally admitted he would negotiate. He would assign 2 people from his administration to negotiate with us. We started last night. So if we finally have a process, a structure that has worked every time in the past, but now we have a short time frame to get the job done in. So I'm optimistic that now we have a structure that can work. The time frame is what's difficult, but what we really have to do is we've got to spend less than we spent before to curb inflation. We've got to become less dependent on China, make our supply chain better, get more people into the workforce. That's where work requirements moves people out of poverty. We've got to be able to build things in America again. That's where we're going to cut red tape, let projects actually, and permitting process actually work. And there's a lot of places where we need to save money, like COVID money that you appropriated for 2 years and nobody spent.
Right.
That's common sense. Why do we have to fight over that to bring that back to the hardworking taxpayer? That's what's crazy.
But that's not going to move the needle in terms of what you're trying to do, right? That's one item. Are there more items? In other words, do you see common ground on this energy permitting reform, whether it's fossil fuel and green? Do you see common ground on actual caps on future discretionary spending growth? Do you have a sense of that
well,
yet?
There has to be caps. Otherwise, we're just growing out of control. Look, we had just started negotiations last night. I now am optimistic because we have a structure that works. Talk to me in a few days to see I'm optimistic about how the negotiations are going.
Well, let me get your...
Yeah, so here's the deal. As of right now, Republicans basically have all the leverage, okay? I mean, there's signs that Biden is basically going to cave to some of the spending cuts and the spending cap that the GOP has proposed. Now, on some issues like work requirements for SNAP and, you know, rolling back some of the tax credits and things that was in the Inflation Reduction Act, he doesn't seem to be too interested in doing that. But I think clearly something is going to get done, right? I don't think that the country's going to default. However, you do have Democrats out there that are basically saying, screw this, and they just want the country to avoid defaulting by minting a $1 trillion coin or invoking the 14th Amendment to disregard the borrowing cap, okay? Which, again, that is just radicalism, really. I mean, we're talking about minting a $1 trillion coin to keep the government funded, to keep us being able to pay our debt liabilities, which, again, is fascinating. And it kind of shows the world that basically our economic system is a scam, right? Where we quite literally can just continue to print money, okay, out of thin air, right? We can have a coin that we say, hey, it's worth $1 trillion, right? And yeah, you're getting your money paid back. It's just fascinating, okay, to watch all this stuff happen. Again, it really does show you how much of a scam some of this is. But in regards to the GOP, I think they have all the leverage. I think that they definitely should try to get as many spending cuts as they can, because at some point, guys, we got to make some hard choices, right? Whether that be discretionary spending, okay, or, you know, military spending, it doesn't matter. Like, at some point, we have to roll back a lot of the spending that we're doing. We've been living high off the hog. But politicians do what politicians do, because the ultimate reality is that spending cuts aren't popular, right? And tax increases aren't popular. And that is why you see the debt explode the way it does, okay, to the point where, again, we have more debt than the amount of money that we're making, right? And it's just a shame that our politicians can't come together and agree that, hey, this is a problem. We need to roll back on some of this stuff. But again, that is democracy, right? Because, again, actually trying to solve the problem of the national debt is not going to be popular on both sides of the political spectrum, which is why we have this problem in the first place, because nobody really wants to actually solve the issue. I like the Republicans' proposal because, at the very least, to me, it seems to be realistic, okay? It at least gets us in the right direction. But let's be real, we have to go even further, okay, to reduce a $31 trillion debt, considering that, again, our GDP is only $25 trillion. We have to make some major changes, right? But again, that's never going to happen because people will lose their jobs. So I don't expect the country to default. I think things will be fine. They'll get it done at the last minute. But this is something that is on the horizon, just so that you guys know. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.